It is now my pleasure to hand over the program to our Vice President of Advancement and moderator for the evening, Dan Allen.
Thank you, Effie, and good evening to everyone, or good afternoon, depending on which time zone you're in. It's a real pleasure to have you join us for this program where we're going to talk a little bit about what DePaul has been experiencing over the course of these last several months, and just as importantly, look forward to the future of the university in the context of higher education in the United States as it relates to what we've learned from the pandemic and what we've learned about how we can more effectively deliver on our mission, on our Vincentian mission. And so it's a real pleasure again to have you join us for the program, particularly our alumni who are joining us from around the world. We have current parents who are joining us. A special welcome to the university's Board of Trustees and those of you who have agreed to share even more of your time with us. And I'd like to offer a special welcome to a number of admitted freshmen. So a number of high school students who have applied to and been admitted to the university, as well as their families who are joining us this evening. So we hope that the content this evening is going to enlighten you a little bit and encourage you even more to join the DePaul community this coming fall. And so with that, I'm going to begin by introducing all of our panelists first, and then we'll begin the Q&A. So let me begin by welcoming our President and Mrs. Esteban, Dr. Gabriel and Josephine Esteban. The Estebans came to DePaul in 2017 from New Jersey, where Dr. Esteban had most recently served as the president of Seton Hall University. Those of you who have spent some time reading Dr. Esteban's bio, and for those of you who have joined us at alumni events previously when we were able to be in person and have spent time with the Estebans, know that Dr. Esteban has a long and distinguished career in higher education. He's served as a provost, he's served as the dean of a business school previously. He comes to DePaul with deep experience in our industry, and in particular, having served at a Catholic university just prior to coming to DePaul. Under his leadership at DePaul, he has been instrumental in writing our new strategic plan, which is focused on strengthening the university's Catholic and Vincentian mission, strengthening our reputation for excellence in academics and access and attainment to a high quality degree program, and preparing our students to serve the world in whatever profession it is that they choose. He was instrumental in doing the same work at Seton Hall, and that's why we have such confidence in his leadership at DePaul. He oversaw enrollment growth and increased fiscal strength at Seton Hall, and he's doing the same things here for us at DePaul University. And his partner in this work, Mrs. Esteban, has a distinguished career herself. She has earned an MBA from University of California, Riverside, has a master's degree in economics, and also has a distinguished career in data analytics and business analytics, serving the advertising industry, telecom industry, and the retail industry. And so we're delighted to have Mrs. Esteban as Dr. Esteban's partner in advancing our Catholic and Vincentian mission as well. And happy she could join us this evening for our program. Joining the Estebans is our Provost, Dr. Salma Ghanem, and I'm going to use Salma as I move through this and eschew the proper titles, if that's okay. Salma joined DePaul in 2014 as the Dean of our College of Communication, and had come into that position having just previously served as the Dean of College of Communication and Fine Arts at Central Michigan University. She's now our interim provost, having been appointed to that role in July of 2019. Salma is a prolific author and has presented her work around the globe, and is the founding editor of Agenda Setting Journal and is a board member for the International Association for Intercultural Communication Studies. So we're pleased to have our interim provost, Dr. Salma Ghanem, with us this evening. Joining Salma is our Vice President for Student Affairs, Dr. Zdziarski. Gene also joined DePaul in 2014. He previously served in a similar capacity at Roanoke College. He served there as Vice President for Student Affairs as well as Dean of Students. Gene is also an author and is nationally recognized as an expert in public safety issues as well as crisis management. And I think Gene has a most recent and updated edition of his book on crisis management that just came out. And most notably in his career was recognized for his service to the student affairs administrators in higher education as a distinguished service to the profession award most recently. So pleased to have Dr. Zdziarski joining us this evening. And finally, it's a pleasure to introduce a member of our board of trustees and the chair of the Now We Must campaign for DePaul, which we'll talk a little bit about tonight, Sasha Gerritson. Sasha holds degrees in opera performance, French, and vocal pedagogy, and has a distinguished career herself, both as a professor at Northeastern Illinois University, but also as a performer, as a highly acclaimed career as a soloist, a soprano soloist, and a choral conductor. The awards that she has received and the recognition that she has garnered in this area is too numerous to list. But suffice it to say, we are really pleased to have Sasha with us to share about the work that she is doing along with her fellow trustees to raise money for the university and specifically to raise money for DePaul students. So with that, let me open it up for the moderated part of the program this evening. And let me begin, Dr. Esteban, with a question for you. It goes without saying that the pandemic has brought about just countless challenges for DePaul, but for colleges and universities across the country. So tell us how that has affected the landscape of higher education in the United States, and specifically talk about where you see DePaul in that changed landscape going forward.
Thank you, Dan, and good evening or good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. This obviously has been a very challenging time this past year. And we were just talking about March 13, I believe, is when we turn one in shutting down our campus. Moving forward, I think you're going to find institutions operating in a very changed landscape. One of the things that has happened because of the pandemic is you're going to see increased financial pressure among higher ed institutions. It's not just the tuition revenue, but it's all the auxiliary revenues. So if you're a largely residential campus, your revenue from housing, food services might amount to 15% of your total budget. And a number of institutions have had to just completely shut down the residence hall. So that's been a big issue. So you have those financial challenges. Everyone talks about the upcoming demographic cliff in 2026, when the number of 18-year-olds is going to drop significantly, lowest it's been in a long time. And now they're predicting another drop 18 years from today. Right? So your people are childbirth, birth rates have gone down, and they expect it to continue to be depressed. So you have those challenges. You also have constantly evolving technology. If you recall, Dan, one of the things we did early on with some of the CARES money we received, we changed all our classroom to at least be Zoom enabled, if not ready for trimodal classes. We're looking now at shifting even more, upgrading software and so on, because a lot has changed since we did our changes last summer in terms of technology, software, and different capabilities. So that's constantly evolving. Competitive pressures, we've seen that. You saw the numbers this past fall across the country. in terms of enrollment. A lot of potential freshmen didn't even enroll for classes. Community colleges took the biggest hit. We did extremely well. We welcomed our largest freshman class in our history, and it was also the most diverse in our history. So we were able to buck the trend in that. Academically, a number of higher ed institutions excelled in providing flexibility in course delivery. And I'd say we are one of them, and I'll expound on that a little bit more, as well as the accompanying support services. And I want to stress that out. Jean's probably going to mention this also, is I'll focus on mission and ministry and some of the things we were able to do. For example, retreats. We had the highest attendance in our beginning of the year retreat this year versus any other year. So there are a number of things which we're able to do better than we thought. And that we expect that flexibility to continue. And as vaccine distribution ramps up, I assume everyone's been following the news. President Biden said all adults should be able to get their vaccines by May, which is great news, obviously, from our standpoint. We plan to welcome, we already announced we're welcoming our students back to campus this fall, with the majority of classes returning to in-person learning. There are obviously new aspects of the new normal that are here to stay. For example, we are continuing our commitment to health and safety. If you recall, when we thought we'd be in person last fall, we did certain things, plexiglass, seating, and so on. So all of that we're going to continue to do. We're also more creative in how we connect with each other and teach classes online. There were classes which we never thought we could teach online, but we discovered we can. Innovation will continue, but that's a DePaul hallmark. As an example, one of our freshman seminars took place entirely using virtual reality headsets. And I listened actually to the talk of the faculty member, I believe she was in communication, who did this. Our students obviously enjoyed it. They even got to provide feedback to the VR, to the product developers, who in turn shared information about VR career opportunities with our students. Our faculty have been incredibly creative in ways to teach students, and will continue to explore those avenues. Our guiding principles throughout COVID has been making decisions that allow us to live our mission, not just today, but into the future. And you recall, and the campus knows, whenever we talk about DePaul, the question we should be asking is, what will DePaul look like, not just 5 years from now, but 25 years, or even 100 years from now? We're constantly trying to find ways to strengthen our university. And I believe that in 5 years, we'll be a stronger, more flexible, and more inclusive institution. And our goal remains the same, to be unequaled among national urban universities by ensuring a diverse community of success of a diverse community of learners.
Thanks, Gabe. And that reputation for being unequaled is rooted really in our academic excellence. And so, Salma, I know that one of the most fundamental shifts, of course, that we had to make as a result of the pandemic was to remote learning, and the stresses that put on faculty to shift so quickly to a new environment. So can you help us understand the resiliency of DePaul's faculty in the midst of that shift, and some of the noteworthy academic accomplishments that we were able to garner even in the midst of that new environment?
Thank you, Dan, and good evening, or as Gabe said, good morning to some of you. Absolutely. You know, the shift to go to remote was done within a week. But what is really wonderful to see is that it wasn't only the faculty who had to shift, the support services had to shift, technology had to shift, facilities had to shift, and everybody really united together to get that done. I just looked at faculty evaluations. I was curious to see how are students reacting to this shift. And across all colleges, faculty evaluations were at an all-time high, which tells me that faculty really not only shifted remotely, but adapted remotely to the needs of the students. And when I say remote or online, that varies. It can be everything from asynchronous to where, just like today, they're Zooming with their students. So it's really been impressive how classes, as Gabe said, that we never thought could go online or go in a remote setting, they were able to do that. Music, for example, never used to offer remote classes, and they found out they could do excellent one-on-one classes in this environment. But that being said, even though teaching moved remotely, everything else that happens at a university continued. So this last fall alone, we had 10 new programs that got developed and approved. Grants, I just looked at them, we're close to 5 million in research grants. Faculty are still going up for tenure and promotion. So people have really, there is the regular work that continued really well. There is the remote work, but in addition, how people have adapted to doing things to help the community. So our nursing students, we have 150 nursing students who are giving vaccines and helping the city administer vaccines. Our Idea Realization Lab, if you recall, Dan, at the beginning of the pandemic, they used all their 3D printers, they got them to their homes and made shields when, especially when PPE materials were scarce to find. So a lot of community engagement, a lot of innovation in programs, and an amazing shift to this environment. I've been at several institutions, and I really am impressed by how quickly and efficiently and highly qualified the shift was to this new reality.
Yeah, it was impressive, Salma, and I think a testament to the faculty is that the shift took place with our students in mind, right? The best interest of our students in mind, and that I think is one of the most important qualities of the DePaul faculty is how student-centered it is, and the shift that the faculty understood needed to happen for them was related to the students, and so Jean, as you're thinking about that shift to the students, the importance of building community is something that I think is often overlooked in how colleges and universities had to adapt. So talk to us a little bit about the work that went into ensuring connectivity between students and building community amongst our students in a remote environment.
Thanks, Dan. And again, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I agree with many of the things that Salma and you have said. You know, the shift to the online environment certainly was challenging, but like the faculty, I was also really impressed with the creativity and ingenuity that staff and students demonstrated during this time. When we went remote, one of the first things we did was to create a one-stop shop for virtual engagement opportunities across the university. We called it the Digital Engagement Network, or the DEN. Now, at any time, you can go into the DEN and see over 300 different events and activities that would be available for students to participate in. Just before this event, I happened to log into the system, and there are currently 391 student events or activities that are available to students to participate in through the end of the winter quarter, as well as what will begin the spring quarter. And that number changes and is updated daily as people add new programs and events throughout the academic year. In addition, our DePaul Activities Board, which is our student programming board, also sprang into action in March of 2020 to begin offering virtual opportunities throughout the week for students to connect with other DePaul students and maintain that sense of community at DePaul amid this pandemic. Some of our more popular events have been our trivia and bingo nights. Students participate virtually in themed bingo and trivia nights and can win prizes that they can have mailed to their homes. One of the more recent events that was really well attended was our Star Wars trivia night that just happened a couple weeks ago. Another popular event has been our Take Home Tuesdays. Now, this, for DePaul students that live on campus or in the nearby community, Take Home Tuesdays allowed them to safely pick up supplies from the student center to engage in a project and virtually in a community with other students. In some cases, we were able to mail supplies to students outside the Chicago area, or provide a supply list so that they can get their own materials and participate. One of the more popular Take Home Tuesday events has been our virtual painting classes. Students get a canvas, some paints, some paintbrushes, and participate in an online painting class. In fact, I got my own supplies one night and participated in one of them and created my own masterpiece along with the students. It was a lot of fun and people really enjoyed that opportunity. Despite the pandemic, student organization involvement has also continued to remain really strong at DePaul. And we learned recently that this is not the case at a lot of other institutions around the country. In fact, last week, the National Association of Campus Activities, or NACA, held their annual conference virtually. And as part of the program, many of our colleagues had shared that student organization involvement on their campus was down significantly. Now, in a typical year at DePaul, we'll have over 350 different student organizations. And I'm pleased to share that despite the challenges of the pandemic, we continue to have over 300 student organizations meet regularly during this current academic year. Now, DePaul traditions have also continued during the pandemic. Alumni and Family Weekend, Christmas at DePaul with the annual Christmas tree lighting, Demon-thon, Blue Demon Week, and many other large traditional DePaul events have continued to take place virtually. Right now, as we're moving toward the spring, and circumstances are gradually starting to improve, the staff and student involvement have partnered with our colleagues in housing services and residence education to begin to reintroduce on-campus activities during the spring quarter. Now, this is going to be done with reduced capacities, social distancing, and masks, but these events will take place in the Lincoln Park Student Center and provide our current on-campus students with some opportunities to engage in some in-person community building activities. These are just a few of the things that we've done to try to continue to engage our students and help them feel and remain part of the Blue Demon community.
So between bingo and Star Wars and painting, I'm afraid that bingo might have been the only thing that I was able to do there. So congrats on that masterpiece as well. I hope you hang that in a prominent place in your home. Lovely. So and part of what we recognize the university has a responsibility to do is to help our students create that network and to provide the support they need in this really challenging time to continue to progress towards a degree. And so, Sasha, I want to turn to you and talk a little bit about what you and your fellow trustees did in response to what you knew our students and their families were going to experience, what you saw coming down the path for our students and our families, and how you asked us to respond as a university community and how you yourself responded as a leader. So can you talk a little bit about the Now We Must campaign and what we're doing for our students in that regard?
Sure, Dan. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody, and hi to many of my fellow trustees who are on the call tonight. I am so glad you're here. Thank you. I remember very vividly a year ago when everything changed and we were all scared and we didn't know exactly how we were going to handle it. And the idea of raising money in that very precarious environment felt overwhelming. And then we thought about our students and we thought about the fact that they were acutely experiencing housing and food insecurity, that maybe they didn't have enough money to pay for their the gap between their scholarships and their financial aid. Maybe the students who had to leave the dorms didn't have access to technology in order to do their schoolwork. And we as a board and as a team and as a group of family and friends of DePaul came together and said, we must raise money for our students. we must. And so, taken directly from St. Vincent de Paul and his call to action, what must be done, we came together as a group for the Now We Must campaign for our students. And Dan, of course, your group and your team has been so instrumental in this. And the board decided that we should go forward and try to raise this money to give back to our students immediately for their needs that occur as a result of this pandemic. So we had 5 pillars to the campaign: the raising money for scholarships and financial aid, for student emergency assistance funds. This past year, we have seen that area need more than ever. And then, of course, for access to technology and technology needs, for internships. So many jobs and internships and career readiness opportunities were lost as a result of businesses closing. And we need to help those students get the experience they need to move forward in our world, have those tools that they need to be successful in their future. And then, really importantly, was the pillar for support in the area of mental health and wellness. We all felt it. The effects of the pandemic, I think, will be felt for years to come. And the ability to connect via Zoom, to connect through technology, and all of the other ways that we have been blessed to figure out how to use during the past year have been a saving grace. So I am proud to say that we are well on our way to meeting and beating our goals to raise this money and to be able to get it back to our students in the most immediate way possible. And I must thank you and Dr. Esteban and the rest of the administration, faculty and staff, and the Board of Trustees and donors for coming together to help raise this money.
Yeah, well, and thanks to you as well. Your leadership and commitment to our students is relentless, really, and the success that we're experiencing in terms of our fundraising and the generosity that we're seeing from our alumni, our parents, the business community is related to your leadership, the leadership of your fellow trustees, and really inspiring people to think about our students at this time. And we know that certainly giving money is an important way for the community to help our students, but I want to ask you, Mrs. Esteban, if I may, because you've spent so much time traveling the country and in fact traveling around the world with us and meeting with alumni. You are keenly aware of other ways that the community can also support our students beyond just giving money. So tell us a little bit more about ways that our alumni, our parents, our friends of the university can support our students in addition to their financial gifts to the university.
Thank you, Dan. And good evening, everyone. Well, I think one of the things that makes our university so special is that our community members are always asking how they can help. Participating in events like this one, or one of the many other programs hosted by Alumni Relations, is a great way to stay connected to DePaul. One of the benefits of hosting online events is the ability to participate from anywhere, anywhere in the world even. Now, as it becomes possible to start hosting in-person events again, such as the regional alumni events and service days, please consider joining. Now, the other ways you can help include: 1, hire a DePaul student as an intern, and putting in a good word for our students. Word of mouth is still one of the most powerful tools of marketing. Reach out to our career center and let them know you can be a mentor. And lastly, respond to calls to support DePaul financially, like the Blue Demon Challenge, which, by the way, happens in the first quarter of the calendar year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
And so true, right? The Blue Demon Challenge is an important day where we gathered a lot of energy and enthusiasm for the university, but beyond the philanthropic support that we enjoy and experience from our community, the ways that you shared for others to think about helping our students are terribly important. So thank you for that. Dr. Esteban, let me come back to you, and if I may, ask if there is perhaps maybe just one important or two important lessons that we've learned from the pandemic and what we can take away from those lessons and apply to making the university even stronger.
Thank you, Dan. Let me just start. I'll go off script a little bit because one of the things I realized, you and I realized early on during the pandemic, that DePaul is a community that really cares for members, not just of our immediate community, but the larger group. And that's something which I know a lot of institutions do, but Sasha brought up the Student Emergency Assistance Fund, right? And I remember last spring quarter, and typically we'd hand out about 35, 40,000 in emergency funds in a academic year. Last spring, we handed out over $500,000. This is to pay rent, to buy food, and so on in the food pantry. So that's where I saw the DePaul community step up. But going into the lessons, I'll focus on the academic side. One of the things we realized quickly on is that we had a great advantage because we had been a leader in training our faculty to become experts in remote teaching. So that's been ongoing, and we recently actually won 2 other awards for these programs, which we teach our faculty to engage in a remote environment. And last year, we learned to even be more creative and flexible with our teaching. As Salma pointed out, the student evaluations of teaching were the highest. At DePaul, we view teaching as our number one priority, that and the quality of our academic programs. That's why many of our programs are ranked among the top 10, top 25, or 50 in the world or in the country. That includes game design, animation, entrepreneurship, and theater. And then I'm sure you kept track, but one of our alumni just won an Emmy. Jillian Anderson won an Emmy. She's a DePaul theater graduate. Moving forward, we'll continue to develop new academic programs that meet students' interests, including entrepreneurship, nonprofit management, sports communication. We have a new master's degree in speech language pathology, which we're waiting on final approval, and artificial intelligence. Another relatively new school with new undergrad and graduate programs is the Gray School of Applied Diplomacy, which is the only one of its kind in the country. It's housed in the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, and they just celebrated their first year. And there we also welcomed the inaugural endowed chair for applied diplomacy, Geoffrey Weissman. He's a career foreign service officer, and he's served on faculties at University of Southern California and Australia and throughout the world as well.
So the importance of our academic programs really can't be understated, Gabe. Again, as we mentioned at the beginning, the identity of the university, the things that we're known for is our excellence in teaching, the excellence of our academic programs, and to your point, the number of academic programs at DePaul that are ranked in the top 10, top 25 amongst all colleges and universities in the country is really an impressive list. And so I'd like to ask you to pick up from there, Salma, and talk about the development of new academic programs. Again, based on what I was asking Gabe to do is thinking about those new academic programs in terms of what we've learned during the pandemic, and help us understand how we're thinking about those new programs that we're going to offer in the future.
Thank you, Dan. When we are looking at new programs, we really try to have a good sense of what the students want. And I think that's the most important thing, is that in academics, our students are right at the center. So what are the programs that they want, and in what modality do they want it? And that's what we have to think about. It's not about what we want. It's not about where we feel comfortable teaching. It's where do the students, is meeting the students where they want to be met. So we really tend to modify or create new programs based on the demand and the requests we get from the students. In terms of modality, what we're seeing, especially post-COVID, is that students, some of them want to be in class, some of them don't want to be in class, some of them want to choose one or the other. So we're really focusing on the fall of offering our classes in this variety of modalities. But back to new programs, we really do keep up with the trends. We do a lot of market analysis as well to see what needs to be done. So sports communication, for example, is the only one in the Chicago area. Our master's in artificial intelligence, that's very, very new. So there's a lot going on. That doesn't mean we forget our core programs, and we have to make sure we continue to strengthen those as well.
And so when you talk about the students who want to be in class and the students who don't want to be in class, I have to say, tragically, I was probably one of the students who didn't want to be in class when I was in college. But we'll leave that for a different
but Dan, I have to say, not being in class doesn't mean the work is any less. Okay. Okay. You got that wrong.
Different idea.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. So clearly, Jean, my college experience was a little bit different than today's college students. So talk to us about how you see the experience for our students evolving, changing, going back to what it was. Paint a picture for us of what it's going to look like when we're back to pre-pandemic ways of thinking about college life for our students.
Sure, Dan, I appreciate that, because, again, I think all of us were a bit disappointed when most of the university events and activities and programs were moved to a remote environment. But I have to say there have been some upsides to it. With meetings and appointments being moved online, students have more flexibility in their schedules, and they've been able to reclaim some time that they might have otherwise spent commuting to campus or even commuting between campuses for their various meetings and classes and events. In fact, I'll say that during this pandemic, the frequency of students keeping appointments and attending meetings and even classes, Dan, has improved during the pandemic. Think about it. If someone overslept or remembered a meeting at the last minute, they don't have to get up and shower and dress and then travel to that commitment. Honestly, today's student simply rolls out of bed, combs their hair, puts on a clean shirt, and jumps into a virtual class or meeting, even if they're still wearing their pajama bottoms. And so it's really enhanced the student ability to participate and engage in that way. As we move forward to the fall and begin to establish this new normal that a lot of folks are talking about, I think students will continue to have options and flexibility for their various events, appointments, and activities, and even classes. I'll say that several university offices have found real advantages to meeting with students virtually. Let me give you an example. For example, our academic advisors feel that their meetings with students are much more productive because, quite frankly, the share screen options provide them with an opportunity to share important documents and academic records with students in a way that was perhaps difficult or even awkward when they're sitting in the advisor's office and somebody had to come around the desk and view a screen and different things. So it's simplified some things. And again, with that higher attendance rate at appointments, they feel they're much more effective. At the same time, with our students having been fully immersed in it for the past several months, many students will want to continue to be interested in taking, as Salma discussed, the online synchronous, online asynchronous, hybrid classes, along with our regular in-person classes. Even for us in student affairs, we've learned that some programs and activities are well suited for the online environment. I shared earlier the success of our trivia and bingo nights in the virtual environment. Frankly, my staff plan to continue to offer these programs in an online format in the future because they had such significant attendance from students participating in those events. As we begin to see more people vaccinated and we can safely gather again, I truly do believe that students will be able to engage in campus life much as they used to. There'll be a time when large gatherings like Fest, Commencement, Alumni and Family Weekend, Welcome Week, orientation, and more will happen in person. And that part of college life will again be a norm, even if they come with some virtual options for attendance.
So once again, you've described my college experience: rolling out of bed, putting on a clean shirt, going to class in pajamas, although the cleanliness of the shirt, I'm sure, could have been debated on a regular basis. So thank you for doing that again, helping me remember what my time was like and how different my time was from today's college students. So Sasha, I'm going to give you the last word in this part of the conversation, and ask you to rescue me from remembering my college days, and help us understand from your perspective, Sasha, what gives you hope for the future of your alma mater, right? You've been so involved in working tirelessly to help our students, and you've seen the brilliance and the resilience, for that matter, of our students. So help us understand from your perspective what gives you the most hope for the future of the university.
It's a huge question, Dan, and the answer is gigantic. And I'm so happy that you asked me it, because honestly, I have a lot to say. I have hope in so many ways for the future of our university. I have seen during this time the Board of Trustees and Life Trustees come together to work together to make plans and to give so generously that we are able to now disperse this money in a way that is significant. I have seen the administration come together, the staff, the faculty, turn on a dime and be able to make use of the technology and provide this critical access to this amazing higher education. I have seen students come together and help each other in a way that warms my heart and brings my soul joy. I have seen alumni step up and give and pitch in and roll their sleeves up. All these things that DePaul is really well known for. As an alum of DePaul myself, I learned while at DePaul, to those whom much is given, much is expected. And as members of the Vincentian community, it is our call to serve. And we are here to help not only serve and to give of ourselves and to help those who need it, but we are also called to help the next generation of students become those helpers and those leaders in the future. And so my greatest hope, Dan, are our current and future students. I see the light in their eyes. I see the future through them. And I have great, great faith that they will always be the ones that save the world. And we will go forward knowing that students from DePaul will remember their experience at DePaul, and they will reach out and help those in need when it's their turn.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Sasha. I couldn't agree with you more that if you need a lift at any point in time and you question where we're headed as a city, a state, as a country, as a society, spend some time with a DePaul student, and your perspective is going to be changed. We are really blessed with a campus full of extraordinary people who care deeply about their fellow sisters and brothers in their communities, but also their responsibility to be of service. And so I appreciate you pointing that out. I think that is it, Effie, in terms of the questions that I have. So we're going to turn it over to our attendees to ask some questions of the panelists. Is that right?
That's correct. Thank you so much, Dan, and thank you to all of our panelists. So we got quite a few questions so far, which is great, using the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. We'll try to get to as many as we can. The first question here, one of our participants says, "Good evening. My daughter wishes to pursue medicine, so would like to know the strength of the pre-med advising at DePaul. Do you have connections to other schools in the Chicago area and hospitals to avail research opportunities?"
Well, let me take that one, Effie. We have an excellent health science pre-med program at DePaul. And yes, we do have connections with local hospitals. We just signed a memorandum of understanding with Sinai Hospital, and we have a pathways program with Rosalind Franklin, where people can be admitted into that, and then they can transition into a medical career of their choice at Rosalind Franklin. So I would say yes, we do have a strong advising program, a strong health science program at DePaul, and we do have connections with Rush, with Sinai, and with Rosalind Franklin, for sure. Effie, you're muted.
Thank you, Salma. Thank you so much. I apologize. The next question is for Dr. Esteban. When you talk about the university in 25 years, what's the role of philanthropy in that future? What's happening or planned to build a culture of philanthropy within the DePaul community?
Happy Dan should be the one answering that. No, but we should be. I mean, we have very ambitious goals as laid out in the strategic plan. And that includes the size of the endowment, that includes giving rates for our undergrad students as well as grad students. In 25 years, when I look out, just projecting, right now the goal is to hit $1 billion endowment by 2024, and we're well on our way to hitting that billion ahead of time. So you want the endowment to be large enough to support the students who need it most. That means scholarships for our student. That means research opportunities. That means internship. It means a culture of giving, which is, I hate to say automatic, but it's a culture where our alum, the friends of the institution, are willingly giving back without even being asked. And as we have events, for example, this year was a record year for the Blue Demon Challenge when we raised $3.4 million. And to put that in perspective, just 3 years ago, we were at the 1 to 200,000 range. Just think of it. And the number of donors, we hit over 3,000. When 3-4 years ago, we were less than 1,000. Just think of what that could look like in 25 years when our alum, when our students, when our friends understand the power of giving back. But that's who DePaul is. So just cultivating that culture of giving, I think, is one of the biggest tasks. So hopefully in the future, anyone who can benefit from a DePaul education, money shouldn't be an issue. And that's still a challenge today, and we see that with our students coming in. Thank you, Effie.
Thank you, Dr. Esteban. The next question is it probable that study abroad will be available to students in the fall?
Let me take that one, Effie. Thank you for asking. We just had a discussion about this. The plan is yes, we will, pending, of course, all the city and state regulations. So if I'm not mistaken, students are applying now for study abroad programs in the fall. The issue is that students are making decisions now while they don't know what the fall would be like. If everything is open and the numbers are there, yes, we will definitely have those study abroad programs up and running. I'm really hopeful that by the fall, things will return to as normal can be.
Thank you, Salma. The next question, how challenging has recruitment been in this environment? Have we been able to attract students at the same level that we have pre-pandemic?
Who do you want to answer that? Okay, Gabe.
Yeah, I can do it, Salma. Yeah, this past fall, for the last 2 years, we've welcomed our largest freshman class in our history. And for this fall, for example, our applications for admissions are up 16% over last year, and our admissions are up 20%. And while it looks like we're admitting more students, if you look at the academic profile of the students we admitted, in terms of their SAT score, which can be a little misleading because not a lot of students have been able to take the SAT. We're up, I think, 30, 40 points. And in terms of the average GPA, we're just about dead even with last year. So it looks like we have at least the same quality, if not slightly stronger class. Now, the big question is going to be how many are actually going to be attending DePaul. And that's, in this environment, that's a challenge. But at this point, it looks very promising. We've taken extra steps in terms of outreach, in terms of having more events. I saw one of the questions had to do as to whether we're going to have on-campus tours. And Salma, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've started having, if it's a single family, because I was on campus last week and I thought I saw at least 2 families and 2 separate small tours. Salma?
That is correct, Gabe. Right now, they're doing it, but on a very, very small scale. We don't want to be in any way involved in the spread of the virus. But if I'm not mistaken, our orientations, and Jean can jump in here, our orientation for during the summer is going to continue to be online. So for the summer, we're still being very, very careful with the hope that by the fall, things will be okay. Is that a correct assessment, Jean?
Correct. The majority of our orientation program this summer will be online in an environment that will both be synchronous as well as asynchronous. At the same time, as we move closer to the fall quarter and the start of school, we're going to provide some different opportunities for people to come to campus to participate in some in-person activities, again, in smaller groups, spaced over the course of several days, that people will be invited to attend these different events and activities in person, but that will be closer to the beginning of the fall quarter. Otherwise, again, majority of it will be done online.
Thank you. Jean, this might apply to you as well. Are there events for students who are near campus? So this will be when we're back on campus again in the fall.
Yes, I saw that question. And one of the things I would say is, again, I particularly highlight the events called Take Home Tuesdays for students that are not only living in the residence halls on campus, but the opportunity for students living nearby to participate in those events, as well as, again, they can participate in any of our online events throughout the rest of the quarter and the rest of the academic year. As I mentioned in closing my comments, we are going to be piloting a number of in-person programs this spring. We're going to do that in a socially distanced way with smaller groups, but there will be some opportunities this spring, again, assuming that the virus continues in the positive trends at this point, and we have some continued opportunities to do that, as well as the weather, so that we can do some of those things outside. We're going to provide some more opportunities for students to engage in person on campus.
Thank you, Jean. Our next question, what is DePaul doing to raise up a community of scientists in the fields of environmental ethics, climate change studies, and sustainability?
We have a strong program in environmental sciences and environmental studies. So this is something that we are very connected to, something that is also very much on the Vincentian mind, that for Vincentians and for a Vincentian institution, it's not only to care about one another, but to care about the environment. So this is, we have also scholars outside of those programs that are heavily involved. So in journalism, for example, we have a focus on environmental studies. So you will see it scattered not only in the environmental studies department, but across the university as well. But also that transcends into how we approach our facilities. And we have a sustainability plan for our facilities as well. So it's kind of a holistic approach, including in addition to the academic approach.
We have another academic-oriented question. It says, have courses needed to alter their content because of the pandemic? Also, how has student performance overall changed in their classes? And were there any solutions put in place for students who are struggling in their courses because of the different learning environment?
Okay, that's a multi-pronged question, so I hope I don't forget parts of it. Yes, altered in the sense that they had to modify the content to meet the remote environment. So it's not that you take your lecture notes and you just put them online. It had to be modified in a way that students can interact with the materials. And what works maybe in a face-to-face class, we had to have different ways of offering it online. In terms of the rigor of the material or the content itself, I would say no, students are getting as strong a degree whether it's in the online or the remote format as it had been face-to-face. Effie, I need help with the rest of the question. I knew I was going to forget it.
No problem. I'll cover it again just in case. So
okay.
You talked about if we need to alter the content, how student performance has altered as a result, and then solutions for struggling students.
Thank you. I should have written it down. Student performance overall has been pretty good. We looked at grade distributions, and it seems to be actually they're a bit higher than in the past. That being said, looking at students in the aggregate is very different than looking at individual students. We have students who have struggled, and we have reached out to them, whether it's through our counseling services, whether it's through our faculty, to make sure that they're doing okay. The struggles that some students had vary. Sometimes it has to do with financial struggles. Sometimes it is mental struggles. Sometimes it is struggles within the class. And what faculty have done, they have been extremely accommodating and understanding to the student needs and the accommodations that could happen. Students could get sick. They could have a family member that could get sick. So we altered some of our grading policies to make it more flexible for our students. Today, I just approved that incomplete, that we could extend the timeline for incomplete so that students will have more time to finish their coursework if needed. So we've really adapted and responded to those needs as they come up. But they're not one kind of needs. The needs vary across our student body, and it is addressed by different units on campus and sometimes by multi-units on campus.
Thank you, Salma, and thank you so much to all of our panelists for joining us today. Unfortunately, we are at 7 p.m., so we don't have any more time for questions, but we appreciate you as the audience joining us this evening. We hope that you benefited from the program. We do hope that you also join us for future events. For our alumni, parents, and current students, you can check out our website, alumni.depaul.edu, for our upcoming events. And for admitted students, please know that there's also upcoming webinars for you and your parents that you'll be invited to as well. Thank you so much again. We hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.